Our strategy provides, including funding for law enforcement through the American Rescue Plan, for states, cities, and to be able to hire police and pay them overtime in order to advance community policing.
President Biden now getting crushed with criticism over suddenly wanting communities to fund the police after using negative rhetoric against law enforcement. A blistering op-ed in the New York Post put it this way: Biden is recasting himself as a supporter of law enforcement, but Biden's pro-police turn won't work. If Biden wants to reverse officer demoralization, he should retract his long record of anti-police remarks. Like this.
Imagine if every time your husband or son, wife or daughter left the house, you feared for their safety from bad actors and bad police. And ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see. The systemic racism is a stain on our nation's soul. The knee on the neck of justice for Black Americans. Yes, there's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement.
Power panel now. Rachel Campos-Duffy, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend, host of Moms on Fox Nation. Leslie Marshall, radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. Great to see you both. Rachel, I come to you first on this notion of suddenly a conscience over the violent crime that's spiking across America, or something else that's driving this?
Yeah, well, he certainly saw poll numbers showing that people aren't happy with this defund the police and really this general culture of lack of respect for police officers, smearing them, and in general, lack of respect for authority. And I think it's coming from two places. It's definitely coming from, the activists on the Democrat side who have smeared cops as killers, the rhetoric coming from Joe Biden, actions like defunding the police. It's also a breakdown in the family. I think that, when you have policies that discourage family formation, two-parent households where, that's where kids start to learn when they have a dad in the home, learn a little bit about authority and respect for authority. All of these things are affecting the culture, and that's why you're seeing in law, police departments that might have, 200 applicants, 2, 3, 4 years ago, this year might have only 60. Those are some of the reports we're getting. So you're seeing officers saying to their sons and their daughters, don't go into this profession. And as you know, it's just like the military. It's a family business. And if the active duty law enforcement officer sees that, is demoralized, why would they want their son or daughter to do the same line of work? Yeah, it's a legacy line of work, much like serving in the military tends to be in our country, too. Leslie, I want you to debunk something for me. Or maybe demystify, explain it, I don't know. But when you read the actual language in the bill that Joe Biden now, the president, is alluding to, and he says, well, they can spend this money. Jen Psaki at the White House press secretary said they're allowed to spend this money, states are, through the COVID relief legislation on now funding the police. Allow and telling them to do it in written form in that bill is something completely different. Why didn't Democrats do that? I mean, if they knew, if the president really felt this way before 15 minutes ago, why not put that in writing? Because can is different than you will if you want this money.
Well, a few things here. First of all, he did put it in writing. If you read his website, all through his campaigning. No.
I'm talking about the compulsory language in a bill that becomes legislation. I'm not talking about what he said on the campaign trail. I'm saying not just an incentive. Tell the people what to do in the bill that becomes law that you sign, Mr. President. Why not tell them exactly? Fund the police. Don't defund the police. But he didn't do that. So I don't need to know what his website said. I'm asking you, Leslie, why not?
Because I think local governments, when they get money from the federal government, and governors of those states, especially maybe a red state when you have a Democratic president or vice versa, don't like to be told what to do with the funds 100%. They have said, hey, here's a bunch of money, use it for COVID, use it to re-up and to reinforce your police departments. And that is actually the rhetoric that Joe Biden has said when he was on the campaign trail before being elected, since he's been elected, in writing and verbally. Joe Biden has been very clear that he is not in favor favor of defunding the police. And if you look back to 1996, Harris, as you know, he got a lot of grief for the crime bill, which police loved and were very supportive of. So Joe Biden has not been anti-police, and I don't think the rhetoric that was played earlier was anti-police. I think it was reflecting the sentiment at that time. Interestingly enough, today, a Gallup poll came out showing that there is a 10% increase among African Americans in their faith being restored with regard to the police. And interestingly enough, whites remain unchanged in that opinion of the police.
I'm just going to quick response from you, Rachel, on this, and then we're going to move on to Chick-fil-A.
During and after the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of African Americans, by the way, telling white liberal activists to get out of their neighborhoods with their defund the police rallies because they want the police. That's absolutely true. But I would just say this was a trick by the Democrats. They were defund the police. When they saw it wasn't popular, they tried to say it was Republicans who were defund the police, the very people who were criticizing Democrats about defund the police. And now they're trying to say, see, we're funding it. It was in this bill. No, the bill was just money for states. There was never anything, as you said, Harris, about funding the police, because that's never been a priority of the Democrats. And I think it's insulting to try on, in this 11th hour after seeing some poll numbers to pretend like you're pro-police. The problem about police is a cultural problem. It's not a money problem. If Biden cared about law enforcement, he would change the attitudes within his party that are vilifying our law enforcement.
A group of New York lawmakers is looking to block Chick-fil-A's bid to open restaurants at highway rest stops because its owner's opposition to same-sex marriage. Senator Lindsey Graham on Facebook said if such a disastrous move ever came about, banning a commercial business due to them expressing their First Amendment rights, it would be a horrible precedent. It would also be ferociously opposed by many members of Congress, including me. Leslie, your reaction.
If in Texas, Planned Parenthood or very large anti-NRA groups were to open a business, whether it was chicken sandwiches or other, I don't think that you would see Senator Graham stating that. And I think you would see the same reaction from Texas. Look, I believe in a person having a right to open a company, but you also have a right as consumers. You also have a right as those within the state, even legislators, to oppose it if you feel that it is a negative impact on the community because of the beliefs of that private corporation.
Rachel.
Just curious if Democrats plan to go after devout Muslims who have much more restrictive theology against homosexuality. Also, I would say that this is just another example of liberal intolerance. They basically say you must submit to our point of view, and if you don't, you can't open a business. You can't have a platform on social media. This is typical liberal tyranny.
Leslie, Rachel, good to see you both. Thank you. Great debate.
Thank you.